Good. So the recording is starting now. Abhinav, are you okay that we are recording this session?
Absolutely okay.
Very cool. And are you okay that this interview is being shared as its whole form on our blog and our podcast and snippets, inspirational parts of it through social media, primarily LinkedIn?
Yeah, also
Very,
okay.
very cool. Nice. So before we get started with today's show, let me quickly introduce PathMonk, our sponsor. So if you have enough visitors on your website, but too little of them are actually signing up for a demo or a trial, then you face what a lot of SaaS businesses are facing today, that only 2% or less of your website visitors actually leave their contact information on your site to set up a demo. So that's what PathMonk fixes. It increases your website conversion rate by around 40% or more, and it provides you with more qualified leads from your own website for your business. It's a simple 30-second setup and you get more value from your existing website traffic. So, welcome to the show, guys. Hi there, business owners, directors, and marketeers. In today's show, I'm talking with Abhinav Agrawal. I'm Lucas, your host as always, and I want to tell you a little bit about Abhinav before we starting the interview. So, he is the co-founder and CEO of Rocket, and we're going to be talking all about that. It's basically a technology focusing on high growth startups. So we're going to be looking into all the details there. But previously, he's also been at very interesting companies. A VP at SurveyMonkey, co-founder and CEO of Renzo, which actually got acquired by SurveyMonkey. He was an entrepreneur in residence at Social Capital, VP of product at Zynga, PM at Amazon. Like this list is just going on. Engagement manager at McKinsey and Company, and actually holds also an MBA from Harvard Business School and a bachelor in electrical engineering from Princeton. So all the box ticked there. So I'm very interested to talk with Abhinav today. So Abhinav, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Really excited to be here, Lucas.
Very cool. So tell us about Rocket a bit. What is it all about?
So, the Rocket in its very core is a modern recruiting agency. And the genesis for Rocket came because, as you mentioned, we had a number of startups. And what we realized is that the three biggest problems we had in all of our startups were number one, acquiring users, number two, our technology stack, and then number three, hiring people. And then that's actually kind of where we spent most of our money. So our last startup, Renzu, we raised a few $1 million in seed money. And when we looked at where did it all go, it went to Facebook for ads. It went to Amazon for all our hosting infrastructure. And then it went to a bunch of recruiting companies. And, it's pretty hard to compete with Amazon and Facebook. But we looked at the recruiting and we said, that experience was not that great. Yes, we hired a ton of people. We hired 15 engineers in 6 months. So we did a pretty decent job at it. Always can be better. But we were left unsatisfied. We didn't find that experience as good as it could be. And being sort of product engineering people, we had this idea of, well, we can make that better. What if we could use technology to make that better? What if we could have better recruiters that actually had your interests at heart? What would that look like? And because I had a history of working at a company like McKinsey, I knew what really good customer service looks like, right? Really kind of serving your clients. It sounds kind of outdated, but it's something that the best companies really live and die by. And that's kind of what led to Rocket, which is very simply, we're building the best technology possible for recruiters so that we can help our clients get the best talent. And we work with, a bunch of companies, primarily in the United States today, but startups like Robinhood, like Carta, like StubHub, Blend, NerdWallet, just to name a few. But we have sort of more than 100 customers and helping them hire people at different levels and across various functions. So not just engineering, like some of the online platforms out there, but also in product and design and marketing and sales and finance and accounting. So you name it.
Very, very cool. So how would you describe the recruiters? I'm assuming it's recruiters that are using Rocket. Maybe tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about the people who are using it and what types of benefits they would be getting when using the product.
Yeah, so we are a full stack solution. So think of us as like the compass of recruiting in the sense that we're building this technology and all of their technology, whether it's workflow solutions, whether it's our matching technology based on machine learning, all of that is used by our own recruiters that are W2 employees on staff, right? So we have a couple of offices here in the US. We're planning to open 6 more offices next year in the US. And ultimately, they use our technology to provide a better experience for our customers. So, a customer, let's say somebody from Carta might come in, to us and say, hey, look, we really want to hire a great back-end distributed systems engineer in Seattle. And this is the kind of background we're looking for. And this is ideally the sort of skills she or he would have. Turning that from, from this conception stage to being able to generate a pipeline for Carta that has those candidates that are all vetted. So our recruiters will vet all of those candidates, but doing it in a way that's much, much faster and better than the competition. That's what Rocket's all about.
Very, very cool. So can you tell me a little bit about the customer journey or the user journey until a recruiter actually ends up being a Rocket user? Like, how do people find you?
You know, it's really interesting. Most of our customers come purely from word of mouth. So people have really good experiences with us. You know, one of our customers, I think she was VP of operations at Simple Legal. She had a great experience with us. They used us to hire engineers and product managers and so forth. And by the way, they're a really interesting company. They were a YC company recently acquired by a much larger company in the space, sort of automating legal software and legal operations. And then, you know, she went to a consulting firm called Aquis, and she was like, I used Rocket in this previous company. They've done a great job. I wonder if they do hiring for consultants. So actually now we're helping Aquis hire consultants in New York and San Francisco focused on the healthcare sector. Nothing at all to do with the kind of hiring she was doing with us at Simple Legal, but she enjoyed the experience and, you know, kept it going. And similarly, we have customers who introduce us to other customers. You know, I think you've probably seen this when interviewing founders, that it's very lonely being a founder. You know, there's not too many other people. So you naturally you have a support network and a social network in founders. And typically what we have is people asking each other, you know, what do you use for accounting? What do you use for recruiting? What do you do for this? And in those conversations, you know, we tend to come up a lot and people tend to refer us. So.
Very cool. I usually like to ask this question, especially to the founders. Then how would you, maybe you remember that time, how would you have gotten to the first 10 customers then? What was the way sort of you built your way forward to get that first 10?
Yeah, you know, I think we were quite lucky because we had a pretty established network in the area. So my co-founder has done, you know, we did the last couple of startups together. Before that, he had another 2 startups, one of which was acquired by Zynga. So we were just lucky enough that we had a big network in the area. We knew a ton of startup founders. You know, having spent a little bit of time at Social Capital as an entrepreneur in residence, I knew other founders from there. So we actually started the company with our first 10 customers. And that's what I really recommend anyone to do is we sort of had the idea in our head of how it would operate. But rather than jumping into it, we sort of went to a bunch of potential customers and said, hey, look, this is what we're thinking. If we did this, would you use it? And frankly, none of it existed, right? It was all in our mind. But we sort of told them, well, if this existed, what do you think about that? Would you pay us? Would you do it? And funnily enough, many of them said, yes, where do I sign up? You know, and of course we had nothing. So it was sort of, okay, hold your horses. We'll sort of get going. And so that's kind of where the customers came from. And I think in hindsight, that was really useful because it kept us on the right path of what is the customer pain point? You know, what is it that they're really willing to pay for? I tend to be someone who builds businesses that are very concrete businesses where there's a clear path to revenue. You know who your customer is. You know what the value proposition is. And I think it prevents you from sort of imagining things in your own mind of what the customer wants, because it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to look at a problem, think about a solution, start building it, and then build ever more complex stuff. And then by the time you've actually talked to a real customer, it's been 6 to 9 months. And they tell you, yeah, Abhinav, that's great. But actually, I really want you to do this other thing. And you've sort of lost all that time.
Yep, makes total sense. Very curious then. So you mentioned that there's a lot of word to mouth happening. Looking at your website then, what role does the website play in order to, you know, win new clients currently for Rocket? Is it very central or is it more sort of an informational side piece? How should I look at it?
You know, I actually think it has been very central, and it took us a bunch of time to realize that. So for the longest time, for almost 2 years of our journey, so we're 3 years into our journey, we had a purely what I would call a landing page, something that one of my co-founders had put together in, I don't know, maybe a couple of hours, and that's it. And it basically said, this is what we do, and you can send us an email at info@GetRocket, and, you know, we do recruiting, and blah, blah, blah. It didn't have anything about customers. It didn't have case studies. It didn't talk about the areas we worked in. It didn't have anything about our journey. It didn't have anything about our team. You know, none of that, right? And I think what it took us time to realize is that even if you get a referral from a customer, let's say you get a referral from someone you know, and they say, hey, look, there's this great company, Rocket. I've been using them from recruiting. You should check it out. In today's day and age, the first thing people do is go, oh, let me Google that, right? Let me go to their website. Let me get some more information before we jump on the call with them. And I think over time, we realized that we were losing some customers on that journey because maybe they went to our website and didn't realize that the website didn't fully capture all the progress we've made, right? The website was kind of dated to that sort of month 1 or month 2 in our journey. But we've done a lot more since then, right? We had expanded from engineering to all these verticals. We were doing not just ICs, but also executive hiring. We were doing RPOs. We were doing the ability to go to sourcing for you. So, and I think there was a level of seriousness that existed, right? Like if you're dealing with customers at the level of Robinhood, Carta, again, they expect you to have a certain footprint, and they expect your company to have a certain sort of presence, I guess, for lack of a better word. And that was something that it took us a little bit of time to understand and then really build on. And so I would say today it's very central for that purpose. It's not necessarily that we're running ads and it tends to be an ad conversion destination, but it is great for validation. It is great for people to learn more things and then sort of have a much better sales conversation.
And does that also mean there is a certain set of metrics that you would sort of keep an eye on for the website? And if so, what would that be?
So a couple of metrics that we keep our eye on is number one is out of the people that went to the website. I think similar to the product you guys actually are involved in, which is what the equivalent of conversion for us is a lead, right? Essentially, because you can't sign up online, it doesn't make sense. But for us, it's like, hey, do you convert to a lead, right? And I think what's tricky about this is we have candidates as well as clients that come to our website, because a lot of the candidates that we're talking to are also curious about, hey, some recruiter from Rocket reached out to me, what is Rocket? And so being able to determine how many of them are potential clients, and then out of them, how many actually take the next step in trying to learn more information. Those are the two key metrics. Neither of them are perfect. I mean, it's really hard, as you know, to disaggregate traffic very, very precisely. And the second part is, and even if you get an IP address and the IP address is saying, oh, well, this person is looking at your website from SurveyMonkey, you don't know if it's a hiring manager at SurveyMonkey thinking about using you, or some employee of SurveyMonkey that really hates their job right now and is interested in another job, right? And so, but we tried our best there. So those are the two things we keep an eye on.
Very cool. And any types of challenges, maybe some war stories, some experience you had in terms of trying to improve that rate, that conversion rate on the website, something you guys did that was helpful?
I think the biggest thing that we did was, so in this industry, historically, people have been very, very reluctant to disclose their clients. And I think the biggest reason they've been reluctant to disclose their clients is they feel that somebody else will go reach out to those clients and steal them from you, essentially poach them from you. And so because the switching costs are not super high, there's always switching costs in terms of getting to know the team and they know you and so forth. But it's not like a piece of software that's going to take a multi-month project to rip out and customize and whatnot. And so, traditionally, we had also followed that path. But I think one day we sort of woke up and realized, hey, why are we doing things in the same way the old industry does it, right? We got into this business to disrupt the old line companies. So we're getting into the same bad habits that those companies are in. So we said, look, we're going to actually put our customer list online. We're going to actually have really good case studies. We're going to actually mention the names. We're not going to just say a Fortune 1000 retailer used us to hire an engineer, because the reality is that could 99% of it be bullshit, because you can just say that and no one knows. And that's what customers think also when they see that, right? But instead, if you tell them, hey, there's this great startup near South Park in San Francisco called Spoke, they've raised a Series B from these investors, and here's the journey of how they used us to hire a VP of marketing. Now, suddenly that's a case study and a reference point that the customer, walks away being just more interested in, more engaged in. So I'd say that's probably the biggest change that we made, that we've seen a lot of dividend from.
Very, very interesting. Cool. That's very interesting to learn about how you're thinking about the conversion rate there on the side. I would like to switch gears a little bit and learn about you as a founder and business person, especially because you've been moving along, very interesting destinations. SurveyMonkey, just being one of them. Maybe could you tell me, just like, building up this company now, what has been the most helpful things that you've been learning and applying now to the business that you're building up right now? So essentially, what's helping you most to build up this business as you do at the moment?
I think I tend to fall in the YC camp of founding startups, which is just that ultimately the most important thing is your team and your founding team, right? Because there will be sort of the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns that are going to come through your journey. But if you have the right team in place, then you can meet those challenges. So I think the biggest thing has been that the founding team has been working together since 2011. We did our last startup together. We've had, work in the trenches at Zynga. We saw what it was like to do a startup. We saw what it was like to get acquired by SurveyMonkey and then spend 18 months there. And it's different journeys, because when you're a startup, you control your own destiny. You get acquired. There's this, hooray moment and it's excitement, but then you kind of go back to work, but your life has changed. You're not the master of your own destiny in the same way. You now are reporting into this corporate hierarchy, and people have different motivations, and people have different sort of reasons, and you're not necessarily core to what the company is about, right? And so that was a different challenge and learning for us. So I think ultimately the biggest thing that I've been focused on is, how do I sort of approach this journey together with my co-founders in a way that keeps the team engaged, keeps the team excited, where we're both excited from a business perspective, because of course that has to be true, but also from a personal level. Is everybody on the team getting the engagement and the personal self-discovery and the chance to learn that's going to keep them excited for the next few years? Because all of these companies feel like overnight successes, but most times they take 5 to 10 years to really mature and get there. And I want to make sure that we are in it for the long run.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Maybe one last question there to wrap up. Especially since you've been sort of that one company has been acquired, Rezo. What is something that you, if you sort of go back to the day when you started working on Rocket, what is the one advice that you would give yourself today, with all the hindsight that you would have? Like, one advice that you would be giving yourself when you restarted Rocket today?
I think it's taken me some time to realize why young entrepreneurs can sometimes be the best entrepreneurs, right? And partly, I think, is that as you get more experience, you start building this muscle memory of all the things that won't work, because for whatever reason, you've seen them not work, right, in some situation. And the reality is the analog is never perfect, but somehow your mind is resistant because you've built up this visceral reaction of, well, we tried doing ads on LinkedIn and it never worked, as an example, right? That's kind of what we found out at Renzu is, we thought our product would be great for running ads on LinkedIn. We did a bunch of experiments. And I think even if you believe, yes, this product is different, yes, it's a different time, things have changed, something inside you, prevents you from necessarily going down those pathways as easily. Or maybe even if you get to them later. So I think the one advice I would give myself is, how can you sort of start things with a clean slate, almost, cleanse your mind. And, it's kind of paradoxical because you think like, oh, I'm getting all this experience, I should be a better entrepreneur, I should have more wisdom. And yes, there are some things to that you learn, but I also wish that there were ways for me to start with a clean slate every time.
Very cool. I really appreciate it. Very interesting answers. So Abhinav, thanks a lot for taking the time, walking us a little bit through your current company, the experiences with the previous companies, and how you're thinking about growing the company. So thanks for being part of the show today.
Thank you, Lucas. I really appreciate being here.